Hello and welcome back for another chat style video. If you don't already know, I am Roxana and I make videos on homemaking, simple living, and I share lots of recipes on this channel. If you love those sorts of topics, please hit that subscribe button and also hit that like button if you enjoy this video. I really appreciate you doing so. It supports my channel and it helps me grow. I'm actually reshooting the introduction part of this video, and that's why I'm going to look differently in just a few minutes here when I get into this topic, because some of the audio part of the video got messed up during editing, and so I had to re-record this part. I have shared my personal story on here before. I made a video a couple of years back where I shared a summarized version of what I'm going to explain here in this video. And I also shared some budgeting tips that I did to simplify my life. If you want to learn more about that, you can visit the video in the description box below. But for now, I want to talk more in depth on that process for myself. And I want to talk about this because as much as I get beautiful comments from you and beautiful emails, I also in between sometimes get snarkier comments. Things like, it must be nice. It must be nice to be with your daughter. It must be nice that you get to live this sort of way. And I don't take any offense to the snarkiness of some of those comments. What I can see is the frustration. I have been deeply frustrated in different positions in my life, and I've had to make a lot of hard decisions to get out of them. I had a very lucrative real estate business that I left, and in this video, I'm going to share with you how I got into real estate, my experience with real estate, and why I left it. I hope that this video motivates you to make any necessary changes in your life if that's what you desire to do, and I hope it inspires you in some way to see that whatever life that you want is available to you. You just have to take the steps to get there. And so I hope that this video helps motivate you to start taking some of those steps in your own life. Let's get into the video. I grew up pretty poor. My parents divorced when I was young, and all throughout my childhood, I watched both parents, even though remarried, they both just really struggled with their finances. And I knew that by the time I graduated, that college needed to be a part of my plan so that I could not live this life and secure my financial future and have a career for myself. So when I graduated, I immediately started taking classes and working, and I moved in with a boyfriend who later became my late husband. At this time, we decided since I was going to college and it would take me a while to get the degree I wanted, we could start our family and later on I could go to work in that new career. I was pursuing my bachelor's degree with criminal justice, and the plan was for me to go to law school after. Once I became a mom, things changed drastically. I no longer was interested in going back to work at this point because I just could not see myself leaving my daughter. So the plan was for me to stay at home with her for as long as possible, get all my schooling done, and later work. Well, I also lost interest in the law because it just filled me with anxiety to read all of these case files. So here I was with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, not wanting to work in criminal justice. And when it was time for me to go to work, my daughter was about 8 years old. I got a job as a loan officer, and I quickly moved up into a senior loan officer position within that first year. Almost directly after this happens, my husband passes away. Now I am not just the only breadwinner in the house, the sole support in this house, but I'm also a sole parent. And this promotion also came with a commute, so it was quite a time in my life. When I look back, I think, I don't know how I got through all of that, but we did. I started being a lender within a real estate office, and so inside the brokerage, and I worked around a ton of real estate agents every day. They'd harass me for their loans every single day. I began teaching classes, and I was so lucky because the boss that I had at the time allowed me to bring my daughter into work, so I didn't have to utilize daycare, which was something that I wanted my daughter with me. And that was a really top priority for me. It has always been a top priority for me. And I'm so grateful to that employer who allowed me to take a later lunch break, pick her up from school, and bring her back to the office for my last few hours of work. And at this point, we were commuting all the way back an hour in the evening home. And when we moved over into that area, it made things a lot easier because the commute was no longer there. But here I was as a loan officer, a senior loan officer in this real estate brokerage. I had to teach classes, and I found the agents were very demanding. And I just was working these long hours. Even when I would go home, people would call me. My phone never stopped ringing. I felt stuck a lot of the times because this was how we made our money. And I felt like I needed to find a way to move past this and get out of this job, because my boss kept giving me, as great as he was, he would give me more and more stuff to do, more and more responsibilities. And I knew that it was becoming more and more stressful as I stayed. So after looking around and deciding maybe I should get my real estate license. Now, if you know anything about real estate, you work 100% commission. If you don't know that, if you do know that, then you know. There's no hourly wage. It's your own business. As a loan officer, I was very, very lucky because he gave me a salary on top of commission. So there was this security there of having this monthly salary that I could depend on that paid all of our bills, and the commission was just extra. And so we lived very comfortably. And to go from having stability like that, I can understand how scary it is for any of you that are thinking about making a change yourself. One of my big fears was I would watch a lot of the agents come in, and I would see successful ones and I would see a lot more unsuccessful ones, because they would come into the office and they would just sit there all day doing basically training or sitting around talking to one another, and they never got their businesses up off the ground. So I really was adamant. If I was going to do this, this meant I was going to go out, and I was going to go out to the people. I was going to knock on doors and do any way I could to find clients. Just any knocking on doors, calling people. I set up a auto ring, I forget what they call it, an auto dialer, a Mojo auto dialer in my kitchen, where I would stand with my laptop and make calls, telemarketing calls to get business. And I just knew that if I was going to take such a risk, I was going to give it all that I had. And that's exactly what I did. I went out every day that summer, knocking on doors, calling people on the phone, being hung up on. When my daughter was at school, I had just a little bit of savings in the account, and so there was no more salary coming in. I just quit my job, and that was that. After knocking on doors in the summer heat, making phone calls and getting hung up on, I finally had my first 7 transactions within just a few months of starting real estate. And I closed my first 7 transactions that month. I deposited $42,000 into my bank account, and it was so eye-opening on how much money you can make in such a short amount of time. I was able to be with my daughter. I was able to call my own shots. I started work when I wanted to. I brought her to open houses if I needed to. So it was really a great fit for us. It was a great vehicle to get us to where we are now. But over time, I got really tired of the sales talk. If you ever work in a sales office, or if you've ever worked in a sales office, you know the pipeline talk is really the central of any conversation. Every time I saw my broker, anytime I saw any of my real estate friends, it was who's next, who you're networking with, who's your next deal, how many deals you got going. And after 4 years of this, it began to be very tiring. I would make a goal board or a goal poster that would have all of our goals for the year. In sales, a lot of times they really encourage us to do that and put it somewhere where you can see it, so that way you see your goals at all times. And so I was making my goal board for the next year, and something struck me once I hung it up. Everything on this goal board had something to do with me buying something. It didn't really have anything to do with me growing into anything or having new experiences. It was all stuff. And when I sat back and looked at that, I thought, what is the point of this? Here I am chasing something. All the time it felt like I was chasing something. I started to change. And I couldn't put my finger on what it was that was changing about me. But after 4 years of it, it started to become very annoying that clients would call me or text me at all hours. I started to get very irritated that my time seemed to be taken from me on a consistent basis. Even though I could take my daughter with me, or even though I had all this free time whenever I wanted it, it was always cut short by a call or a text message, because I had to go immediately to whatever was the issue, whatever was arising on that text message, whatever came up, I had to be right there for it. Otherwise, we were going to lose business. I suddenly found myself repulsed by the whole thing. All we were doing was chasing awards and accolades and trying to make a name for ourselves and make as much money as we could. It wasn't about the clients or how we could help people, although there are some good agents, so I don't want to sit here and tell you that there's not. But there's a lot of really sales-driven agents. Not necessarily bad people, but people that are not in the people business. They want to close transactions. Every deal counts. They want to make a name for themselves. And I'm not here to tell you that there's anything wrong with that, but it's certainly not for me. I felt like I was a part of this very fake image, this very fake world, and I could no longer be a part of it anymore. I remember one in particular sales meeting that really bothered me. We had a fire here locally, a few towns over, and the entire town burned down. And I went into a sales meeting, and the feeling in there was excitement. Instead of being sad for all of these people who were displaced and had no homes, people were talking about, in an excited tone, all the houses we'd be able to sell to them and how much business opportunity there was. I got into my car that day and drove home, and I just remember feeling like something needs to change. I don't feel fulfilled by this work, and I don't feel good about it either. I want to make it clear that I am not insulting all real estate agents. I do not think all real estate agents are the same or are bad. I have a lot of close friends that are real estate agents, and they do an exceptional job for their clients. So please do not take this as an insult if you are yourself a real estate agent. It just was not an industry for me, and I knew I needed to make changes. I remember feeling very guilty when I came to the realization that I needed to quit this business. I felt guilty towards my daughter and the responsibility of being the sole provider here. And I felt guilty because real estate had given us such a nice lifestyle. Why was I suddenly not wanting to be a part of this thing that had been such a big move for me? I think oftentimes we work so hard at something that we're too scared to let it go. And we don't realize that just because we invested in time doesn't mean that we need to keep hold of something. If changes need to be made, we need to be able to make those changes. For me, life is a series of stories. And I often ask myself, what's the story I want to tell? So whenever I'm ending something or moving on to something new, that's where my mind goes. What's the story I want to tell about my life when I get to be an older lady? I began looking at what needed to change and how to change it. It began in small steps. It didn't become something that I was able to do overnight. I had to work on a new business, on something that was meaningful to me. And I started working my way towards that, and it's been several years since. And now I'm here making videos and talking to you and a part of this beautiful community. But it took a lot of planning, a lot of hard work, and a lot of sacrifice and seeing past my fears. And I hope that this video really shows you that no one's circumstances are any different than yours. I mean, we all struggle with something, but it's our ability to see past our fear that's going to make or break us. Can you see past your fear? Because this life is attainable for you. Whatever you're wanting to happen in your life is attainable for you. You just have to understand that you need to act and still feel that fear. Still allow that fear to be there, but don't let it stop you. So many of us are stopped by that fear that comes to us. But there's so many times, I mean, I am not fearless. People say that, oh, you're so fearless to me a lot. But I'm not fearless. I am just as scared as anyone else. But I don't let that fear stop me because, you guys, we are so much more than fear. We are so much bigger than our fears. And so I hope that this video helps inspire you to make whatever changes you need for your life. And stop feeling like someone else gets to live that peaceful life, or someone else gets to have what you're wanting or needing to happen in your life. Start to make small moves and small changes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helps you, and I will see you guys on the next one.